Good morning and welcome. Today with us we have Dave Haynes, industry consultant, well-known industry person, all-round good guy, runs 16/9 blog, been in the industry for a dozen or so years, and although I've just spent a minute introducing him, he needs no introduction. Dave, welcome. Thanks for coming. Now, this actually, weirdly, strangely, is your first time ever at ISE, so what do you think?
A lot of people warned me that it's not like DSE, it's not like Infocom, it's a lot bigger. So I kind of knew that coming in, and I'd looked at the floor maps, the hall maps and everything else, and I got here yesterday and I was just completely discombobulated. It took me a couple of hours to kind of sort myself, and I looked down at my phone, have a little calendar on there, and realized, oh, I already missed a meeting because I was just trying to get myself organized. So it's big, it's a little challenging because it's in all these buildings and there's all these little walkways and underground things and this and that. So I'm used to shows where it's fairly kind of linear and obvious what you do, but really impressive in a whole bunch of ways.
Okay. Now, how would you compare it to something like an Infocom then, which you regularly go to?
So a lot. There's a lot of shared DNA. It's the same kind of guys, by and large, except for I don't think I've seen the worship people. I haven't seen like the church guys with the lighting and all that. But other than that, it's the same guys. So that's similar. Obviously, very different companies in many respects. A lot of unfamiliar companies. Maybe some of the technology I've seen over the last couple of days, I will see at Infocom, but maybe not. A lot more Chinese representation. And I'm finding it really interesting to see how in a North American show, it's either, there's a handful of European companies that come over, and if there's Chinese companies, they're generally speaking, and I don't mean this in a truly bad way, but they're kind of the low rent ones. They got a little boost and they don't have anybody in the stand who speaks English. Here there's a lot of Chinese companies, a lot of pretty sophisticated
bigger
ones.
Yeah.
So it's
interesting.
It's a very different feeling here than Infocom.
Well, Mike Blackman probably needs to take note, the organizer of this event needs to take note. That's a good point, actually. They are bigger and more sophisticated Chinese companies here. So LED is one of the hot points. All of our interview subjects so far have talked about LED.
Yeah.
I think everybody's launching new LED. We've had lots of new product launches. This is behind us. We've never used LED as a TV backdrop before. It's 1.5 mil LED.
Yeah.
But they've all launched LED. What's it going to do to the video wall market for flat panels?
It will be a big problem to anybody who's. I saw in one stand somebody marking a 0.9 super duper narrow bezel LCD video wall, but there's still a bezel. There's still a seam.
Right.
And to my mind, I'm not really sure the general public cares if there's that little seam. If they like the visual, they like the visual. But what's interesting about this stuff is how you can shape it. It's kind of like Christie and Microtiles from 5-6 years ago, where they're introducing the whole notion of shape. But it's mind-boggling how quickly this whole area has advanced. I was at National Association of Broadcasters show about 3 years ago.
Right.
And there were, I think, 2 companies that had 1.9 mil fine pixel pitch LEDs, giant things. And I asked how much, and they wouldn't tell me. But if you asked around, you would find out. And it was like $25,000 a square meter.
You can remember the Mitsubishi one. They had a giant Mitsubishi one. It's huge, wasn't it? And they would never give a price. That was 1.5 millimeters.
So they're coming down a lot in price. It's still not an inexpensive thing to do, but dear Lord, everybody's involved in it. All the majors are involved in it. There are different permutations of it. What I find interesting, I pushed out a tweet yesterday about it, is despite that, it's really only a couple of North American companies that I've seen that have done a good job of explaining it. And Christie being the one who I think is particularly good at it, because they do this kind of stair steps.
I saw the tweet, about the different sizes and the viewing distances. Very clever.
Yeah, because otherwise you're looking at these things and how.
But we all know that Dennis Levine and the old Arsenal media people are behind that sort of creativity and cleverness.
Yeah.
So that's why they figured out how to explain it.
And I saw a company, a Dutch company, the name escapes me, but they're up in Hall 8 in the digital signage area. And they've taken relatively low pixel pitch, I think they're 4mm diodes, and they're putting translucent overlays on top of them, or even wood veneers. So they're making it architectural, and they even had ones that were the same spec as the ceiling tile. So they can pop into the ceiling tiles. So they're animated ceiling tiles, and content bleeding through the wood veneer.
So finally, after all the stuff that we've talked about with Christie Microtiles, 5-6 years ago, surface as a screen, or any surface a screen.
Yeah.
And the digital wallpaper that they talked about, and the drywall that you guys talk about in the US is actually coming true.
Yeah. I mean, you can completely transform an environment in really interesting ways, and it doesn't just have to be a bunch of LCDs. Or it was interesting, and I know I'm in an NEC booth, but going to the Christie booth yesterday and seeing the microtiles that 5 or 6 years ago were the thing, now they're stands for projectors.
Right.
So I guess they've kind of run their course, so to speak.
Interesting. Now, one of the other things that Mike Blackman, the organizer here of ISE, has done is done a good job in helping to stretch the week. Mm-hmm. We've got Friday at ISE this year. This is the first time that the show is 4 days. Everybody's really interested and waiting to see how busy that's going to be or not. But they also have a good job of doing or encouraging events the day before. A-Open always have an event the day before. I think you've probably done some of those ones in the US for them as well. But you did one for Net Display Systems, I think, on Monday. So tell us a little bit about that. First of all, how many people did it attract? I
believe they had 80 or 90. It was more than they expected. They were hoping to get 70, and they quickly went past that. And they had people from, I met people from Japan, Russia, South Africa, North America. So they had partners in from everywhere. I know the company. I don't know them terribly well, but I'd mentioned that I was coming, and they asked if I could come and have a chat with them. So it was really good. When I do these sorts of things, I try not to just do the predictable, and you usually come up with a different presentation. And presentation I did was about the whole notion of, if you're going to start a digital signage project, it needs to start with why, answering the question why, or don't even start.
Right.
So I got up there and started talking, and I'm looking around all these systems integrators and solution providers and thinking, oh God, I hope it doesn't feel like I'm talking down to them.
No.
But I met with many of them after the fact, and they had some kind of working sessions talking about different projects and all that, and they repeatedly brought it up, and they said, you know what, we all intuitively or absolutely know that you need to think about why, you need to answer these questions, but projects just get their own inertia, and they start going, and not nobody, but very often, you never really answer the question of, why are we doing this? Why is this the thing to use? All those really important questions. So I just talked a lot about the old journalist discipline. I'm an old newspaper reporter, of who, what, when, where, why, and how. If you exercise those things at the very start of a digital signage project, you get a lot of it sorted, and if you don't do it, you're on the path to mediocrity in a lot of cases.
Absolutely, that's good. Now, NDS are well known for flight display systems, big corporate communication stuff, breaking into retail. You may have seen the stuff that I think we both covered, their Moscow Children's store. It's very, very good retail installation.
Yeah, I sat in on a demonstration about that. It was fascinating, and they face the challenge of a lot of digital signage operators and solution providers.
So you've got a couple more days left at the show. How are you going to spend the time? What are you searching for? What sort of thing are you going to look out for? You think?
I haven't even found all the halls yet. I was in the press room this morning, kind of circling. Okay, I think Panasonic's here. I had to figure out where NEC was and where Samsung was. So I obviously want to see all these guys, and I need to touch base with a lot of the major content management providers. But I'm way more interested, because I won't get another chance to talk to the European CMS guys and really find those guys who are doing something interesting and different. And I already talked to a company from France this morning called New Signage. Never heard of them. Little company based in, I think, Lyon. And they were marketing on the basis of it's easy and it's user-friendly. And I said, guys, you and 300 other companies, you may have amazing software, but you've got to figure out some way of telling your story that's more unique than that, because that's not going to win the day for you.
Absolutely. Good. And last question, you've got DSC coming up, Digital Signage Expo in Vegas in probably only 4 weeks' time? Maybe 4 or 5 weeks. It's not very long away.
Yeah.
You've got a couple of things you're doing there.
We do the preset mixer. This is the 8th year we've been doing it. I'm expecting, well, I'm selling 400 tickets, and they're free tickets, but you know, we issue them with proper tickets. So we get people from all over the industry. We sold all those tickets out by the end of January, so I'm now getting the obligatory emails from people saying, hey Dave, didn't get a chance to register, can I get in, can I get my buddy in, and this and that. So that's a real thing. It's become a tradition of DSE to a point that when I first started it, I was a little concerned that Chris Gibbs, the guy who runs DSE, would be worried that, you know, I'm trying to poach and, you know, do the thing like people get hotel rooms and they don't take a booth and all that. He actually approached me and said, we love this thing. This is part of the week, part of the experience. We want to sponsor it. So they've been a sponsor for many years.
Yeah, that's good. Elongating the week and putting events around big events is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, I worry with DSE that they've done a little too much of that. There are too many advanced conferences, and there's over a 2-day trade show, and if you wedge in all this other stuff, is there really enough time? I think there's a lot to be said for not worrying about what the lead exhibitors get, that they need to have their 45 minutes with a microphone, and just say, guys, we want to curate this very carefully and have like 8 sessions that people desperately want to see when they're in Las Vegas, as opposed to 40, 50, 60 sessions.
Good. Dave, thanks very much for coming on to our show.